The Cravathi hunting pride discovered the wreckage on the third moon of Talvex Prime. Half buried in crimson sand, the ship's hull had been torn open like prey, its metal ribs exposed to the harsh binary suns. Most of the pride moved past it without interest. Old kills held no appeal. But the matriarch Thessara paused. Her nostrils flared, catching something unusual in the acrid air. Human. The scent was weeks old but unmistakable. Thessara had encountered the species once before, during a territorial dispute near the Orion Spur. They were small, soft-skinned creatures with blunt teeth and weak claws. Prey animals that had somehow crawled their way into the stars. The memory made her lips curl back from her fangs in what might have been amusement. She signaled to her hunting party to investigate. The Cravathi were apex predators on 17 worlds, their reputation carved in the bones of lesser species. Their fur rippled with chromatic patterns that could shift from camouflage to threat display in seconds. Their claws could rend starship armor. Their young learned to hunt before they could speak. Inside the wreckage, they found her. The human female lay in what remained of the cockpit. Her body long since returned to dust by the moon's caustic atmosphere, but her suit remained, preserved by some advanced polymer the Cravathi didn't recognize. And beside her skeletal hand, still clutched in eternal vigilance, was a weapon, crude by galactic standards but clearly well-maintained. Thessara's second-in-command, Drovak, sniffed dismissively. A scavenger's death. Alone and weak, but Thessara said nothing. Her eyes had found something else, a tactical helmet scratched and dented lying near the pilot's seat. On its surface, someone had etched words in angular human script. Thessara couldn't read the language, but she understood the wear patterns on the equipment. This human had been a warrior. The matriarch was about to order her pack to move on when she heard the chittering. 3 cubs, her own offspring from the previous breeding cycle, had squeezed through a gap in the hull. They tumbled over each other in typical youthful chaos, their chromatic fur not yet developed enough for proper camouflage. The smallest cub, Kessa, reached the helmet first. She was the runt, often overlooked during feeding time, always struggling to keep pace with her larger siblings. Her paws were too big for her body, her fangs still milk-white. She picked up the helmet with both paws, surprised by its weight. Then she did something that made Thessara's breath catch. Kessa put the helmet on. It was far too large for her small head, sliding down past her pointed ears until only her snout protruded from the opening. She looked absurd, a predator cub wearing the death mask of prey. Her siblings immediately began their chirping laughter, but Kessa didn't remove it. She planted her feet in a wide stance, mimicking somehow the posture of the dead human, and made a sound deep in her throat that was almost a growl. Her siblings' laughter stopped. Thessara felt something ancient stir in her chest. Recognition, perhaps. Or respect. Leave it, she commanded when Drovak moved to take the helmet from the cub. Let her carry it. The pride continued their patrol, but something had changed. Kessa wore the helmet constantly, even when it slipped over her eyes and she stumbled. She refused to hunt with the other cubs, instead positioning herself at the edge of their camps, watching the darkness with an intensity that seemed beyond her years. Days passed, then weeks. The Pride's scouts reported movement, the Sarathi, a rival species encroaching on Cravathi hunting grounds. Thessara prepared for conflict, positioning her warriors in the traditional formations. The cubs, as always, were kept in the center, protected. But when the Sarathi attacked under cover of the moon's dust storms, something unexpected happened. Kessa, still wearing the oversized helmet, released a sound that no Cravathi cub had ever made, a sharp, barking alarm that cut through the howling wind. It wasn't their language, wasn't their warning call. It was something she'd somehow learned from the helmet, from the dead human's memory imprinted in metal and polymer. The Pride reacted instantly, their warrior instincts overriding confusion. They turned to face the threat 3 seconds before the Sarathi emerged from the storm. 3 seconds that meant the difference between ambush and prepared defense. The battle was brief and decisive. The Sarathi retreated, leaving their dead. That night, as the Pride celebrated their victory, Thessara approached her smallest cub. Kessa sat at the edge of camp, helmet still secured on her head, watching the darkness. "You've found something," Thessara said softly.
"In that prey creature's armor?" Kessa's voice emerged muffled from inside the helmet.
"Not prey, Mother. She died at her post. She died watching. The Sarah understood then. The human hadn't crashed and waited for rescue. She'd maintained guard duty until the very end, protecting something or someone even in death. It was a concept the Cravathi knew well, the sacred duty of the watch, the honor of vigilance. What do you see, little one, when you wear it? Kessa was quiet for a long moment. I see that strength isn't always fangs and claws. Sometimes it's staying when everything says to run. She stayed, Mother. She stayed. From that day forward, Kessa wore the helmet during every guard duty. Her siblings, seeing the respect it commanded, stopped their teasing. Other cubs in the pride began to ask about it, to touch it with reverent paws. Years later, when Kessa led her own hunting party, she still wore that battered human helmet during watch. It had become something new, not a trophy from prey, but a badge of honor earned by a warrior who understood that vigilance transcends species. That courage isn't measured in size or strength, but in the choice to stand guard when darkness comes. The Cravathi had learned something the rest of the galaxy was still discovering. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their stubborn, relentless refusal to abandon their post. Even in death, the human pilot still kept watch. Through a predator cub who'd found her helmet and understood what it meant to guard, and across the galaxy, in 1,000 other places, humanity's legacy was being written in the most unexpected ways, taught not through conquest, but through the simple, profound example of duty fulfilled.